Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. We're glad to have y'all with us today on this Monday morning. Go ahead and get started. Today, we will be presenting our webinar today is part of our mini webinar series about the changes with the FAFSA. Today is a little bit different than the previous two. Today is going to be Ask the Experts. So I will be co-hosting today. My name is Shannon Grimsley with the Woodward Hines Education Foundation and the Get to College program. And your main presenter will be Brian Thomas, who is the director of the Jackson Get to College Center. Brian also serves on a national committee discussing the changes with the FAFSA and any issues or problems that arise throughout the school year. So he's going to have a lot of great answers for you all and a lot of knowledge to share with y'all today. So just wanted to remind y'all that this is a webinar, so we cannot see or hear you, but we do welcome you to put any questions that you have in the Q&A or the chat. We will be going over those at the end of the webinar today. We do have some FAFSA scenario questions that were submitted to us that we will go over first. But as I said, we will certainly answer any other questions that y'all have at the end if you did not submit your questions ahead of time. So we look forward to hearing anything that you might have. We've got about 30 minutes today, so we've got plenty of time to go over any questions that y'all have. All right, before we get started, we wanted to go over a few resources that we have available for y'all throughout the year. We encourage y'all to use these resources if you have a question during the off hours of work days. Of course, we're always here to answer the phone or answer any questions that y'all have through email or through phone calls. But wanted to share that our website, we have a section on our website it's under the student section, and it has questions about all things FAFSA. And we do keep this website updated. I believe that Brian dropped that link in the chat for you all. So we encourage y'all to use that. Like I said, as things come up, we are constantly updating this section of the website so that you have the most current resources about the FAFSA and about things such as the studentaid.gov account. So that's the first one. And then the second one, I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with because we've had it for quite a while, but that is our FAFSA tracker. It updates every 2 weeks with federal data, and it gives each of our Mississippi schools specific data about where they stand on FAFSA completion at that particular date. We have it divided where you can query it based on your high school, your region, your community college region. And then you can also see we do it by FAFSA, or I'm sorry, by school classification. So there's a lot of different ways that you can query this to get what you need. So we encourage y'all to use that. And then there's other ways that you can get student level data that we can talk to you about. So this is not student level data. This is just going to be data across your school. So we encourage y'all to use that at any time. And I believe Brian is going to drop that link in the chat as well. All right, so we are going to move right along and go over the questions that you all submitted ahead of time. But do remember, please drop any other comments in the chat or Q&A for us to get to as we continue through the webinar. So I am going to turn it over to Brian.
Thanks, Shannon. All right, let's move on to our first submitted question. All right, so the first question is, can step parents be excluded as contributors and only use biological parent information? So I'm going to give you the short answer first. That would be a no. So according to FAFSA rules, that's a no. The question on the FAFSA regarding marriage is as of today. That's the key words here for us to remember. Therefore, if a biological parent that supplies the majority of support for the student is remarried, the step parent must be on the FAFSA as listed. So we see a lot of these scenarios and situations dealing with married and remarried parents. That's one of the issues of using the prior year tax information because it can cause confusion. So you may not have been married 2 years ago when you filed your taxes, but as of today, you are. But on the flip side, say you were married 2 years ago, but as of today, you're now divorced or separated. So you would not have to use the ex-spouse's information in that aspect. So the key words here to remember on the contributor and when it comes to marriage is as of today. Okay, let's move on to the next question. All right, so this is kind of a two-part question. These were submitted separately, but I kind of combined them together. So the first part of the question is, how can a student get help without having parental tax information included on the FAFSA? So the second part is, how can a student complete the FAFSA if they live with their parent or parents, but the parents refuse to provide the required information? Additionally, is it acceptable for the student to submit information for only one parent if the other parent will not share the details? So this one's kind of long. So let's go through this kind of in parts. So first off, there are personal circumstance questions that the student must answer prior to getting to the parent information, and those determine if a student is dependent or independent. So if the student answers these questions with a no, they are deemed as a dependent student on the FAFSA and must supply parental information on the FAFSA. Now, yes, there are some situations where parents are unwilling to supply the information on the FAFSA. Sometimes, if a parent, sometimes it's just easy to have a conversation with those parents and dispel some myths like it will affect my taxes, or it'll affect the loans I took out when I was in school, or it's going to make me take out loans, or it's going to make my student take out loans. Well, sometimes that's just an easy conversation, and those, again, are just myths. Other times it's a little harder. There are two options on the FAFSA that can be used in the event as a last resort that we kind of go to. So first of all, the student can opt out of providing parental information and only complete the FAFSA for unsubsidized loans. Again, that's just kind of a last resort because the student would not be eligible for Pell Grant, they would not be eligible for work study and other things, so that's a last resort. There is a unusual circumstance part on the FAFSA. There's a long list of possibilities on this, and remember, not every student has the same situations, so you have to really go through those and really pick out the right one for you. And sometimes they might not be listed on there. We do have another question that'll be submitted here in just that was submitted that we'll go over in just a second. All right, Shannon, let's go to question number 3. All right, if a student is 18, can they complete the FAFSA as an independent student if their parents are non-supportive in their life? So again, along the same lines as the previous question, the answer would be no. I refer back to the personal circumstance questions and explain from there. So yes, technically you are an adult at 18. However, according to the FAFSA, if you cannot answer yes to one of those personal circumstance questions, you would not be independent on the FAFSA. All right, let's go to the next one. How would a student whose only parent is incarcerated complete the FAFSA? So this is one of those unusual circumstance questions. The proper way to complete the student's FAFSA is to choose the option that they have unusual circumstances when you get to that question. They will be given a provisional answers on their eligibility, but the FAFSA will be sent to the financial aid administrator at the college. You'll need later to help that student compile all documents of verification to kind of prove this. So the student will get selected for what's called verification, and all that is verify what's on the FAFSA. This is so that the college can cover themselves, because there's two types of verification. There's institutional verification, and then there's federal verification. So they have to provide the necessary documents to allow federal student aid to be administered. All right. All right. Does the FAFSA delete after 45 days? So no. The clock for 45-day deleting of the FAFSA has not been around for a couple of years now. So for those of you who've done the FAFSA in the past, that was something that we always worried about. You'd start a FAFSA, if you don't finish it within 45 days, it would be deleted automatically. Well, Federal Student Aid has said they do not foresee that ever coming back. So if you start a FAFSA on October 1st and it is now February 16th If you have not finished it by now, it will still be sitting there waiting for you. So it will not delete anymore. All right. So this is a question dealing with after FAFSA completion. There was one that was said, how do I follow up with students after completion to get a copy of the FAFSA submission summary to be sure the FAFSA was completed? So what we want to remind you here is, first of all, this is sensitive information that's on the FAFSA. It's a lot of personal information, personal identifier information. So we don't want to keep copies around. You can always access this digitally through their through their studentaid.gov account and access it there. So there are some instances where, like in CCR classes, college and career readiness classes, it can be given as a grade, which is great. It's a good way to encourage FAFSA completion. So if you wanted to access it for that purpose, great. So there's a couple ways to actually get to the FAFSA submission summary. First of all, you can use the Mississippi Aid Counselor Portal, Mississippi Aid Application Counselor Portal. So there's at least one person at every high school, one counselor that has access to this information. They're able to pull who has completed the Mississippi Aid application. And then if they have completed the Mississippi Aid application, it will let you know if they've completed the FAFSA or not. But they will only show up on this list if they've completed the Mississippi Aid application. So this is a great tool for a counselor to go in and pull and kind of see who has and has not done either or both of those. So we highly recommend this time of the year to go in and check that and see who has not completed it for the help deadline. All right, another way that you can get this information is you can always log into the studentaid.gov account and go to their FAFSA submission summary. So to get to the FSS, the FAFSA submission summary, once you log in on their dashboard, you can scroll down a little bit and look for the FAFSA aid year you're looking for. So we'd be looking for the 26-27 FAFSA year for your seniors right now. If you don't see it there, you can also go to their My Activity to view all their FAFSAs and everything else they've completed. Once the FAFSA is processed, the FSS will show their eligibility for Pell Grant, estimated eligibility for Pell Grant, and their estimated loans eligibility. And remember, this is all just an estimate because the financial aid offers actually come from the school, and they're the ones who disperse the money. All right. So I do want to remind you that this, along with the other two FAFSA mini-series webinars that we've had, will be on our YouTube channel. The previous two are already there. And the one from today, this episode, will be posted very soon as well. So you can always go back and rewatch these. All right, Shannon, did we get any questions through the Q&A? I don't see any come through yet.
Don't see any yet. We'll give them just a second to kind of, they have questions they were thinking of. Yeah, so if y'all have anything that you didn't get to, we'll give you just a second to do that. I will say that if you haven't completed a FAFSA this year, the process seems to be, right, knock on wood, flowing pretty smoothly this year without a lot of issues. Brian is a little bit more boots on the ground and does more FAFSAs than I do. Anything, Brian, that has come up along the way? I have one question here. Oh, we do. We have one question here. Knew I should give them a little bit of time. So the question is, the student has a social security number. The parents do not. What do we do to help?
Yeah, so this is a good one. This is one we see a lot now. So the student, as long as the student is an eligible non-citizen or an eligible citizen, they are able to complete the FAFSA. So they can make a studentaid.gov account, formerly known as a federal student aid account. So they can make that studentaid.gov account, and they are able to do the FAFSA. Now, if a parent does not have a social, they are able to make a studentaid.gov account as well. There is an option when you go in and make that studentaid.gov account that I do not have a social. And it will make them, you follow the same steps through, just like making an account. You may be there, that parent may be presented some credit-based questions, and that's just to help verify their name and everything with the TransUnion credit check. If those don't come up, they are still able to go in and use that studentaid.gov account. And again, it will match immediately, just like the students. And then they are able to go in and complete the FAFSA just like a U.S. citizen parent would. The difference is it will not pull their taxes from the using the direct data exchange. It will not pull in their federal tax information. So you will have to manually input the taxes.
All right, Brian, we had another question come in. Talk about the process that occurs after a student with special circumstances has to present documentation.
So that's another good one. It varies from student to student and school to school. They will, what we typically do is have them contact the financial aid office. Usually there will be something in their student aid portal with the school. So, for here, around here, I talk about Hines Community College a lot. So you go to my Hines account or my Ole Miss account or my Holmes account. So there's some sort of student portal on that college website that the student will go in and see that they're selected for verification. I worked with a student from a community college recently. Basically, she had to write up a letter. She had to get a couple of different documentations of court documents, anything else that will help support that. There's usually some sort of verification document from the school that you fill out, that you attach it to that. So it really varies from school to school, and it's going to be a lot of work on those students. And usually these students have already had a unique scenario enough to get to this point. So I hate to keep adding on to that student's struggles and barriers to get into college, but that's why you all are there as advisors and counselors at school, and that's why we are here within Get to College to help these students finalize that process. Usually, once they've done it once, hopefully that school will not make them jump through all those hurdles and barriers again every year, but it can happen. But also with the FAFSA, sometimes these documents are needed by the Mississippi Aid application to support those claims as well. So just keep, and what I always tell students, keep your receipts, keep your documents. Don't ever send your originals. Make copies, send it in electronically if you can, or hand deliver it. Mailing things can get lost. So always keep your documents handy.
Okay, give it another second to see if there's, y'all go ahead. If you have any more, drop them in the Q&A.
And Shannon, I know you had asked what kind of usual things we see throughout the year. A lot of, you'll see on here, a lot of these questions were contributor based. So that's where a lot of the questions come from, is which parent do I use? So we walk through those a lot. And again, like Shannon said, we're here all the time. Our offices are open Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Fridays, 8 to 3. And so you can always call us or email us. And please, if you don't reach us, leave us a message. We are good about returning our voicemails. You can also send us an email and we can answer that way.
Yeah, so like Brian said, always, as I said earlier, we're always keeping that website page up to date as things come in, breaking news. A lot of things just changed in December for the better. If you joined us for our two previous webinars, especially with the studentaid.gov account, which is basically their username and password, or what used to be referred as the FSA ID. So many great changes that have made the process a lot easier and a lot more accessible for our students. I do think, Brian, that that's where we used to see a lot of the problems, right? Was creating those studentaid.gov accounts, things getting kind of tied up. Um, so a lot of good changes there. If you don't remember your username, you can use your cell phone, and a lot of different ways to make that more accessible. You don't have to answer challenge questions anymore. Those of you who are with us on previous webinars heard all of this, but just to kind of give an idea about how things have kind of eased up and gotten a little bit easier for our students. So this is great news for us, and but like Brian has discussed earlier, a lot of times, there are different circumstances, and we always have to kind of go back to our rules. So, spoiler alert, if you have not been to any of our FAFSA trainings previously, whereas Brian kind of answered these a little bit shorter, we will really dig into the details at our FAFSA trainings, and we do have a couple of more of those coming up. So, check our website for that. And then also always check that updated page. And like Brian said, here's the training email on this. We definitely can answer any questions that y'all have about the FAFSA. And if you need to get a student with one of our Get to College counselors, we can certainly pass that along. So I'm not seeing any more questions come in, but we appreciate you all being with us today. And we will be here throughout the long haul. If y'all have any questions as the year goes on, do remember, as Brian said, to kind of keep track of your students. And as we said earlier, use that FAFSA tracker to kind of see what's going on with your school. So we look forward to seeing you all very soon. And we hope that you have a great week. See you later.